Welcome to the Bonus XP podcast. I'm your host, Luke Morgan, and joining me as always is Conan.
Whoa.
And Griner.
Ahoy, hoy.
If you're new to the show, which I don't doubt that you are, what we do is every fortnight, three friends gather around the internet campfire and each bring forth a news item or gaming topic for discussion. Before I get to that, I'll pass it over to Griner with the most important question you can ask a gamer. Is there anything that you're playing at the moment, Griner?
I talked about this last fortnight, Pokemon Unite. I thought maybe that, the pay to win mechanics and all this stuff would drive me away from it, but I'm still playing it. I still log in every day to do daily quests and grind out that ranked system. I don't know. I genuinely enjoy it. I think 10-minute games is just the most genius thing for this genre. Like for people like me who have a lot less time than they used to.
And this is Pokemon what?
Pokemon Unite, it's called.
Unite.
It's a MOBA, in the style of League of Legends, Dota, but the games are limited to 10 minutes. But other than that, it has a lot of the things I really enjoy about MOBAs, like the team play, the positioning, the counter, well, not counter pick so much because you don't see the enemy pick, but the counter play, all this sort of stuff. They've done they have kept up with it. They did some balancing. So last week I was really annoyed about Gengar and Zorora, but I've barely seen any of them this week because they got nerfed, and I'm happy about that. And I'm still enjoying it. I don't know.
I feel like this is going to be like an ongoing downward spiral where you start spending more and more money or getting more and more into it. But
maybe. I feel like on Sunday, I was like, I have to play something else to talk about on the podcast. It never happened. Do you guys want to hear about Sable, though? I did try Sable. It was a little while ago, but it was a game I was really keen on after E3.
Yeah, I'm keen. Tell me about it.
It was kind of cool. It's just a demo that was available on Steam. The game is like way more like Breath of the Wild than I realized. Like the climbing mechanic's the same. You've got the gliding mechanic. Instead of a horse, you have like this pod racer from the Phantom Menace, that kind of like gliding hover bike thing. But it's like you can definitely tell it's made by a small team, and the jagged edges really, really show. Like the graphics have this really beautiful style, but there's constantly like little pop-ins here and there, and like things over the top of each other. You can see through them every now and then. It's just really pulls you out of that atmosphere. And I'm hoping that's just because it's an early build. Like I'm hoping they fix these things before the game comes out. Stuff like that drives down your enjoyment, and then it just doesn't have that polish in the movement that Breath of the Wild has. Like Breath of the Wild, you can scale any cliff, any monument, whatever, and this is the same, but it just doesn't. You don't stick to the walls the same way. Like you're often sliding down them and stuff. It's just not quite there. And you can definitely feel it's because they're just a small team.
You can climb anything in Breath of the Wild as long as it's not raining.
That's right. But this is set in the desert, so it never rains. So
they figured a way around it. Is there a stamina bar for climbing?
Yes, there is.
Oh, true. Yeah.
But I don't think it's shared with anything else, which it is in Breath of the Wild. But yeah, I really hope they can pull it off. But it definitely feels a bit like they've bit off more than they can chew. But we'll see what they get up to. It's a great idea. It's a very pretty looking game. Just it felt really rough.
So this is it a beta or a demo or something that you played?
It was a demo. So remember, after E3, Xbox had like most of the games they showed you could go play a demo of. Sable was one of the games I was really interested in, so I downloaded it and played it.
And what'd you play it on, sorry?
PC.
On your PC, yep. Cool. Does it have a release date or anything? Do you know?
I believe it's in September. It's not that far away.
Oh, true. They better fix that stuff up.
It just says release date 2021. Okay. It's supposed to be this year sometime, 23rd of September.
Oh,
so
cool.
not that far away.
No, not at all. Conan, do you know much about Sable? Or?
No, just what we mentioned in the E3 episode. Didn't know anything about it. Again, it looks very pretty. It's got a very unique art style, which I'm always interested in. But I haven't played Breath of the Wild, so
the only Nintendo Zelda fan on the planet that hasn't played Breath of the Wild.
I'm an Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask fan, okay?
Okay, so don't worry, you're not missing anything with Breath of the Wild. You played Horizon.
Breath of the Wild is amazing. You will love it, I'm sure. One day you'll get to play it and you will love it.
One day.
Yeah. But
We'll
play
come on this
Horizon
podcast and we'll
2
say, what did
first.
you play this week? And you say, I played Breath of the Wild.
And
I was
it'll
up
just-
all night.
It'll be 2 hours. You just go. My stamina bar will be endless.
Yeah. Your weapons broke. But anyway, Conan, have you been playing anything recently?
I have. So, speaking of pretty games, still have Game Pass because I got it for that sweet $1 deal. So I've been going through that. So I finished A Plague Tale. That was fine. And then I got into a game that I remember.
1 second
hearing-
before you continue. So, how did it end? Do you overall satisfied or
Spoiler alert.
don't
we are
spoil it? But
humans are the plague. It's a metaphor. It's a good metaphor.
Ooh, it's deep.
No, I really feel like I can't talk about this game without spoiling it.
Okay, cool.
So, like, it's an ending.
I can't wait.
Is it anything that's like, here's a sequel?
No, which I'm super interested to see where they go with it because it
I'm
doesn't
glad they
leave it.
don't do that.
Yeah, there's no like, oh, we vanquished this plague, but wait, what's that in the distance? It's
I think it's another plague.
exactly.
Plague of locusts.
So there's nothing like that. I'm curious.
It's the
to-
Delta variant. What?
I mean, they could shoehorn that in. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
So I'm keen to see where they go with number 2 because they could go anywhere, and there's a lot of room for growth. There's a lot of room for polish, and similar to what you say about Sable, you can tell that this was also like a big project by a small group, but there's a lot of weird things in there. There's a lot of choices and sort of AI moments and designs. It's like that's clearly like a first draft, and it's been good enough, and you've just sort of left it in there, and that's a shame. So I'm excited to see what that looks like when it's fully realized. But I still advise everyone to play it if they get a chance. But no, the other game I've been playing, and I'm like 98% now, is did you guys ever play Ori and the Blind Forest?
No, it's one of those games on my list. I think I have it in my Steam library. I'm like, I should play that one day.
Yeah.
And I hear it's really good.
Yeah, Luke?
So, Ori and the Blind Forest is one of those things that I always look at and be like, oh, I really want to play that. Like, that's an Xbox exclusive that I was like, oh, I really. And then obviously it came out on Switch eventually. I downloaded the demo on Switch and played through that, which I think is about half an hour or so of the game. Loved it. I love the art style. I think it looks beautiful.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
And it looks, and every time I watch like a review of it, it looks so hectic. Like it looks really like it gets crazy. Some of the bosses and like escape sequences and stuff like that. And it sort of gives me a bit of anxiety and holds me off from buying the full game. But
yeah,
definitely something I'm keen once I get Series X and everything like that to play through that, and Will of the Wisp as well.
Yeah, so I don't think it's as crazy as games like Celeste or even Super Meat Boy, like a lot of those platformers that were notoriously difficult, and sort of almost revitalized that and brought, introduced that whole Soulsborne-esque design almost to it. But there's oh, you go.
I was just going to say, like, Celeste kind of turned me off platformers for a while because maybe I'm just not that good at them. I found that game incredibly hard.
Yeah, I'm scared. I haven't touched it because of that exact reason. Like, I'm not a huge platformer fan, and there were a couple of times playing Ori that I was like, do I want to keep going with this? But then when you get into it, I was sort of hooked. I'd play for a few hours, and it's the kind of game where I'm like, okay, cool, I can go here now. Oh, now that I've got this ability, I can go back and do this thing that I missed out on because I couldn't do it yet. And, this part of the map, I'm 85% completed. Maybe I can 100% it now. So it's really got a good sort of like a reward system for each time you do something. You're like, cool, I want to keep just exploring and spending more time now because what if I get something else more useful? But it's so beautiful to look at. It's got an amazing soundtrack. And similar thing, it was one of those games that a lot of people played, got great reviews, but I just never touched. And every time I saw it, I was like, I should play that. I hear very good things. And so I was like, look, it's free. I want something a bit different. And so I put it in, and it's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it.
And so you said you're like 98% of the way through it, did you say?
Yeah, so I think pretty much if I didn't have to cook dinner tonight, I probably could have finished it off. And then last area, I went through and did all like 100% at every other area. So I'm very close to it. So it's very satisfying.
How long is it in total?
I don't know, 15, 20 hours.
Oh, wow. I thought it'd be shorter than that.
I mean, it probably is. I think, like with any platformer, there's a lot of, like insta-kill areas and things that if you have to die a lot to solve a puzzle and figure out, okay, here's what I'm doing wrong. And again, like I said, there's a lot of backtracking, and it's cool though because it's got a whole massive map, and you can see everything, and it's all very linear, so you can just keep running in one direction, and it's all laid out clearly. But as a result, you do a lot of back and forthing. A lot of things come out. You die a bunch of times figuring something out. There have been moments, like you said, Luke, those stressful things you see where like chase sequences. There's some that I was this close to rage quitting on because bull crap.
Yep.
But they took like an extra hour and a half because I'm so bad at platformers.
Yeah, true.
And then I also I downloaded Hades because that came on just recently. So as soon as I'm done with that, I'll be playing a podcast over it.
Someone else. Get on it, Luke. Get on it. It's so good.
You guys spoiled my intro for what I was going to say. So anyway, if you guys aren't aware, Hades came out this week. So I will talk about it one day when I play it. But what I'll be talking about this fortnight, I can't believe you stole it. I was like so excited. I'm going to get them excited, but
my bad.
I will play it. I will get it and I will play it. I'm very keen. I'm not a roguelite fan, but I've seen a lot of people who aren't big fans of that who are addicted to this game and say it's great.
Of the roguelite genre, it's very, very friendly to people who aren't interested in roguelites.
That's what I've been saying.
Awesome.
Everybody has just, because it's come out, everybody's just been like, I didn't think I'd like this game, but it's the best game I've played.
Yeah.
So I kind of saw all that. I'm like, man, I really, not to say Griner's, his praise wasn't enough, but
no,
now I have a proper reason to play it.
Yeah.
Best game of 2020.
A lot of people say he beat me. I was about to say, a lot of people say it's the second best game of 2020.
The best game of 2020.
Anyway, the game I'll actually be talking about is a game or games I played through recently and finished again. And I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on it. Conan, I know you know a bit about this franchise. I played the Mass Effect Legendary Edition in the last month. So basically, this is the remaster of the trilogy that came out on PS3 and Xbox 360 10 years ago. Man, it's been this thing where I loved Mass Effect so much years ago. Like, it was my series, and then it disappeared after 3, sort of fizzled out my love a little bit. And then Andromeda came out, buried that further underground, and basically killed that franchise. Like, EA wiped the floor with it and were like, nah, get that body out of here. It's no use to us. That game had like a ending to tease the sequel. They had DLC planned, and they just cancelled all of it because they were like, no. It came out pretty buggy.
Yeah, I remember.
The facial animations. Everyone just knows that game for its facial animations.
Yeah,
and so it's been this weird thing where I'd forgotten how much I loved Mass Effect, and this trilogy was coming out. I was like, oh, this will be good to see what it's like in up-resed and 60 frames a second and all this. I was like, it'll be interesting. And man, did I get hooked on these games again. Now, I did skip 1. I started playing 1 and I was like, oh, this looks great. Now I'll jump over to 2 and see what it looks like. Because I was showing my wife, and number 1, obviously, like, it has a lot of the planet exploring, but like side missions that aren't very cinematic or anything like that. And I was like, oh, we'll jump to 2. This is the one that I first, like, 2 was my first game in the series because I was on PS3 at the time, and Mass Effect 1 came out after that. So I jumped into Mass Effect 2, and from then on began like a fortnight of Mass Effect for me, where every chance I got home, played Mass Effect 2, every expansion, every story, finished it, platinumed it, then went straight into 3, every mission, everything, platinumed to number 3 as well.
Right on.
I love those games so much, and playing this again, like, reinvigorated that love for me. And obviously they've announced a new Mass Effect where it looks like they've realized the mistakes that they made with Andromeda. They're going back to that world of that original trilogy. They've shown Liara, they're teasing an N7 armor in the snow or whatever. Even though they've kind of backed themselves in a corner with the ending of 3, but we'll see what they do. So anyway, I just wanted to say I love playing through them again. The characters in that are amazing. Some of my favorite video game characters of all time. The gameplay holds up and is even better now with the extra frame rates and everything like that. They fixed the gameplay in number 1 to match more of the gameplay in 2 and 3. Conan, I'll get your thoughts in a second. Griner, do you have any history with Mass Effect at all?
Yeah, I came to them late, but I played 1 and 2, really enjoyed them. Obviously, they kept the Mako stuff in the remake? Like you still have to do that
In number one, yep.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, everybody hated that, right? Like,
No, Mako was awesome.
really,
Well,
it was like so
people
floaty
either
and
love
weird.
it or hate it because
It was so strange. Anyway,
It
number
was.
2 was great. Really enjoyed it. And I was really keen for number 3. I remember downloading a demo and playing it. Like, who plays a demo of an RPG? But I played the demo of it,
So did
and then
I.
it came out, and everyone complained about the ending and really turned me off. And I never played 3. Maybe I should. I really should revisit them, I think.
You should. You really should.
Mm.
The ending got fixed with the extended cut. Like, the ending's better than it was originally. It's still not a great ending, but it doesn't have as many plot holes as it did in the original cut.
Yeah.
But absolutely worth playing. 3's up until the final 5% of that game. 3 is an amazing game and amazing story and characters. And definitely, if you play through all 3 again, like, you fall in love with those characters again, and it's very impactful when you get to the end. And there's a DLC in number 3 called the Citadel DLC, which is just 100% fan service. And it's so good. Conan, what's your history with Mass Effect?
Yeah, look, I adore this franchise. It's one of the big ones. It's, top 10 games of all time. I'm so glad to hear that it holds up. There's always this worry with like remasters and remakes that when you come back to it, you're like, oh, that's actually not as good as I remember. It was purely nostalgia.
Yeah.
So to hear you be like, no, it still holds up. It's music to my ears. That's warm fire by my side. That's excellent.
Yeah.
I think, Luke, like when we first sort of got to know each other, it was pretty much this game that we bonded over, and our shared infatuation with Tali. But
I romance Tully too.
She's so great.
I'm not a Tali person at all.
Well,
You're mixing me up with some other dude. I'm not a Tali person at all.
I feel like I remember having conversations. Anyway,
I'm a Legion guy.
Well, like I said, in terms of characters, like Legion's the one that always shocks me. Like that, he's one of the most interesting, compelling characters. Yeah. Shouldn't be, but they just, it reminds me of those times when BioWare just made such good stuff, like Knights of the Old Republic, and then there's some like they were the best for a while. They were making the best games.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad these exist. I'm so glad that we got them. Like it's a space opera that we needed. They're just such great RPGs, and I'm really keen to replay them now. So that.
And you go.
Do you think BioWare can pull off a 4th though? Like, I feel like BioWare's reputation has tarnished hugely since. I mean, even Mass Effect 2, because it went down a bit after, like with Mass Effect 3, with the whole debacle of the ending.
Yeah, for sure. I do feel like we're kind of living in an era now of sort of game companies backtracking on a lot of stuff. Like we've had 5-10 years worth of games. Companies try to figure out where they're going, right? And sort of figuring out like, okay, there's lots of DLC, there's microtransactions, there's figuring out how this looks as a service. There's serializing games constantly. And I feel like with things like Bethesda screwing up Fallout 76 and just sort of this long line, like Anthem was obviously one of the most notorious failures. Like there's just been this string of games that should have been the biggest games ever have just been awful purely because they're the product of all these practices for the past 10 years.
For money. It's all your online money-making sort of games, live service games.
Precisely. And I feel like we're finally at a tipping point a bit where some companies are starting to be like, okay, we can't actually, maybe this isn't the best thing, because even though if they do sell a bit, we're losing so much pool, we're losing audience. And that's why I think, doing some, like we talked about the Dead Space remake, I think it's a really wise idea. They're going back to do something. They're not adding in microtransactions. They're not adding in a special sequel, like a multiplayer mode. They're just like, no, this is a single player game people liked. They remastered Mass Effect. Like, I think they are starting to be like, okay, here's what people enjoyed. Here's what we did well with. And so can they do it? Maybe. Yeah, I have no clear answer, but I would give it, if they release Mass Effect 4, I will play it there day one.
Did you play Andromeda day one?
No, I came to Andromeda late after it fixed all the bugs.
But you did play it though?
Eventually, I played 5 hours and gave up.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
okay.
Similar to you, Griner, the fallout of that game, I was like, I don't want to get this. It sounds woeful. And so I think it ended up being $10. I picked it up, tried my hardest to get into it, and then just gave up.
I played Andromeda with the bugs on day one.
How?
And man, I don't know how I finished that game because like the loading screens just to go from one galaxy to another was legitimately a minute and 20 like seconds every time to jump to a different planet.
That's
and
crazy.
I remember just sitting there like I'm watching this same animation over and over again. I really need to get to this planet to pick up one item and then come back to this planet. And they fixed it. And after the first or second patch, it was like 10 seconds. And I was like, why did I just play the whole game? Oh man, add an extra 10 hours on there. But
Yeah.
Jeez.
like the characters in that game, Legion, man, I spent an extra 5 hours in Mass Effect 2 because obviously he comes in late as like a companion. And I spent an extra 5 hours just keep going back down to level 2, going into his little room just to see if there was new dialogue options with him. And I'll be like, yes, there is. Awesome. And just listen to him talk, man. Like Legion has one of the coolest voices. So Legion, I'm not sure if you remember Grant, he's the Geth.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I do remember.
Yeah.
I played it. I enjoyed it.
I'm sorry. But Legion has a special place in my heart. And I like Tali as well. I'll just say Liara is like the most overrated companion in the whole series.
Sure.
And BioWare shove her down people's throat as like their main person, and she sucks.
I
anyway,
can't understand why she's the or like why she's the favorite. She's so vanilla. It's crazy.
They force her into everything too. Like it's just no. Miranda or Legion all the way, or Thane. Man, Thane's my boy.
Thane's second best, I think.
There was so many good characters.
So many.
I'll say Garrus.
Garrus, Rex, Grunt. Like Mass Effect 2 is obviously my favorite in the series. We'll get on to actual topic, but Mass Effect 2, just that the suicide mission, going around like a classic movie, recruiting all these people who have their own specialities, getting there, doing their loyalty missions. They get a second outfit once you got their loyalty, and then hitting the Omega 4 relay and going into that final mission. And either you can go with everyone alive at the end or everyone can die, including Shepard. Like it's the coolest RPG game, in my opinion, for that sort of anything could happen. Obviously, in 3, they don't follow it up if Shepard dies. They just bring him back from the dead. But spoilers for Mass Effect 2. But that's if you're really bad at the game and you purposely try and fail everything. But yeah, I love that series, and playing it again, I'm so keen for a new one, and as long as it's not Andromeda. But that Mass Effect team isn't there anymore. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's get into the topics for the week. We'll start with you, Grana. What did you bring us?
Start with me. All right. So I think this will be a recurring theme, but it's been a bit of a dry news week in the gaming world.
Yeah.
So I've got 3 little stories I want to tell you guys about. Tell me what you think. The first one. Now, this is a story I would like normally not care about at all. Are you guys interested in racing games at all?
I am always intrigued by Forza. As like I said when we did our E3 show, Forza Horizon 5 blew my mind. Like graphically, I think that game looks insane. It always looks fun to play. On the PlayStation side, I feel like it's very much more simulation than arcade with Gran Turismo. The closest thing I've gotten into racing with PlayStation is MotorStorm, which is obviously very arcade and but yeah, so I always intrigued but never super into them.
Yeah, so I haven't cared about a game since Project Gotham Racing on the OG Xbox, but Forza Motorsport 7, a game released in 2017, is essentially being discontinued. You'll no longer be able to buy it after the 15th of September. Now, that on its own, not terribly interesting news. Obviously, they have to license the vehicles in the game, and that license obviously expires soon. So rather than renew it and pay a bunch of money for a game that nobody cares about anymore, you won't be able to buy it. Fine. That's not the interesting part about this story. The thing I find interesting is that the game has been available on Xbox Game Pass for a pretty long time. Lots of people have played it on Xbox Game Pass. It'll no longer be on Xbox Game Pass after September 15th.
Yeah.
Again, not that interesting. Obviously, they're not selling anymore. They're not going to give it to you for free. What I find interesting, and what I think is an interesting look into our terrifying digital futures, is that some people who have played the game on Xbox Game Pass have paid money for DLC. Now, in theory, they will lose access to not only the DLC they paid for, but the game that they had for free on September 15th. So to combat this, Microsoft is giving all of these people the game for free. That's good. That's a great solution to this issue. But it got me thinking, like, what happens when you're halfway through Mass Effect 4 and you're playing it on Xbox Game Pass, and then Sony drives a truckload of money up to Mr. EA's doorstep and says, we want EA games to be exclusive on our new streaming service, and they pull it from the Xbox Game Pass. Like, you're halfway through the game, like, it's gone for you. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like Netflix is a good example. Like, the video streaming service is a good example of where you can be halfway through a TV series, halfway through a movie. They don't care. It's going to expire and be gone, and you've got to either move with it or. Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like this is going to happen in the gaming world, and we're going to have more situations like this where you're halfway through a game, or you've paid for DLC in a game, and then for some reason, streaming rights, people dumping money on other people's doorsteps, whatever it is, that game's going to be no longer available. What do you guys think about our terrifying digital future?
See, I literally saw, even though he's got headphones on, I saw Conan's ears like prick up when it was talking about the dark digital future of gaming. I saw him like, here we go, crack his neck. He was like, I can talk. So Conan, you take this away first.
I was gonna say, I'm like, Grant, this is my story. This is something that I would bring to you guys and say the future is terrible. Yeah. What's happening here? You're the man who's like digitalize everything. Put my brain into the internet. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to hear you be like, this is a dark future that we have this. Because this is something.
I don't believe it's a dark future, but I think this is an interesting precedent and something that we're going to have to deal with as we approach our digital future.
Because this is something that keeps me up at night a little bit. I check like there's a search engine called Just Watch, and I check it very regularly to be like, crap, is that show still on this streaming service? Because I'm meant to watch that at one point. And sometimes it's not, and I'm like, you sons of bitches.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Netflix is, like, say, it's fickle because they just take it off without telling you. So you're watching it on, January 30th, and then 31st. It's just like, cool, I can't do it anymore. That's it's a new territory like that we have to do. We have to figure out how to deal with. You, right? And it reminds me of that time. Do you remember when the iPhone a few years ago they did that update without people's consent, and there was a whole big hubbub about it. And it's kind of like, this is my phone. How can you guys do this? But they're like, well, it's our technology. And so they put an update on there that was sort of, it did it without anyone saying so. And then I feel like Apple's always dealing with these things with like streaming music on iTunes and stuff.
Yeah, well, they gave everyone that U2 album. And
that's right.
Everybody's thing.
So there you go. Stuff like that where it's a really weird realm to be in, right? Where you don't own anything. You just but you kind of do. You have the rights, but then even then, your rights to those aren't actually your rights. They're rights given to you by someone else. And so at any moment, they can be like, look, you're not paying for this product. You're paying for the ability to access a product.
Yeah.
And so they're in completely, like I say, Xbox is doing the right thing by saying, hey, here's that game for free.
Yep.
But that's not going to become the standard. That's going to be the exception, right?
Well, EA is never going to pay for all of the customers on the service that they're leaving to have the game, right? Like,
no,
it works because it's all in-house Microsoft, but what happens when it's not? Like, I'm sure PlayStation's answer to Game Pass is not far away, right?
No, it's got to be. And we've seen that with streaming where there's now 50 streaming services and they're all getting smaller and smaller because everybody's trying to take their slice of the pie. Sony will have to do it. And then eventually you'll probably get game companies who will have their own thing. Like you've already sort of got EA's online stuff, and like it'll just go down that path, right? Where they'll start to have their own gaming streaming, like a Game Pass thing.
Well, they already do, but I believe it's part of the more expensive Xbox package. Ubisoft has the same thing. So this is already happening. I wonder when these bigger parent companies like Microsoft and Sony start including them with their packages. That's what I think where we're going to get into some weird territory.
I mean, like we had PT removed completely from the store. I know it was a demo, but that's still a game that you can't even move to your PS5. Like when I made the jump from PS4 to PS5, I couldn't transfer it. You could at the start in the debug units that they sent to people, and then they did a firmware update which blocked it. because Konami were like, no, people can't have this game anymore. And a lot of people consider that one of the best horror games. Like, it's only an hour long, but it is a really, really good horror game. And they completely removed it from the store. If you had lost it from your original PS4, you couldn't get it back again. And now people can't carry it over to the next generation. It's definitely something that is troublesome, and it's like, yeah, it's a pain in the ass, and it's not a good sign for the future of gaming. And I don't know, I know it's different than being taken off a current existing marketplace, but like the fact that Elder Scrolls 6 could be exclusive to Xbox when the other games have been PlayStation, and when they announced it was sort of like, this will be next gen consoles, and there's a lot of Elder Scrolls fans on that. The sequel to Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, exclusive on Xbox, for 2 years. After I played the original, I loved the original, and then I couldn't get the sequel on the same console anymore. It's just because of these companies paying these developers and everything like that. It's going down a bad path. And I remember reading something about it being in like the description, like in games or whatever, like you own like the right, like the license to play it or something. It's not like you actually own that game. They can take it away. It could be removed from the store. Xbox are doing the good thing by offering that for free still, but they don't have to for people who never bought the game. But it's the same story with like all these companies like Origin or whatever that can ban people's accounts who've spent thousands of dollars online, like on loot boxes or anything. Yeah. Obviously, they probably do something bad to get banned, but they can be banned and lose access to all of that stuff that they spent.
And that's such a strange thing to really think about, right? Like, you're paying for this thing, what should essentially be, I'm buying this thing to use, I'm buying goods and services, for someone then say, well, actually, no, you can't use those anymore because you never really had them, is a really sort of like, it's like it's disconnected from it. And it kind of goes against how we sort of know how to function, right? It's a very strange thing. Like, I mean, in terms of like a hunter-gatherer sense, like we consume and we possess things. And it'd be like, okay, these are my goods, these are my clothes. It's like, imagine sort of being like, okay, I just get all my clothes from a place, but I never actually own them. I just pay a little bit of money to always wear them. And at any time they could be like, I'm going to take your jeans now.
I'm pretty sure that's Tom Haverford's story in Parks and Rec, Rent a Swag. Like, people do have services like that. People rent clothes. Like, I don't know.
Like, that's it. But they're like the exception. They're never the rule.
No, I know.
And I think in this, it's pretty quickly becoming the rule. Like, when was the last time you guys bought a hard copy of a game?
I buy a few hard copies of games. The last one was Returnal. Oh no, Resident Evil 5 in May. Resident Evil 8, sorry, in May. Like, I don't know, whenever a new console comes out, I like to have as many physical copies just to see that case, because I'm like, oh, it's a new exciting case. It's got a white like trim. So I like to have them all physically. But eventually with PS4, I eventually had like 2 physical copies of PS4 games. Everything else was digital. I'm starting to go that way with PS5, especially with PlayStation exclusives. I usually want to play them at midnight. So I'm pre-ordering and getting it preloaded so I can start playing at midnight. But yeah.
So yeah, I'm on the other end. I buy all of my stuff that I generally do, except, when I've got the Game Pass for a brief moment. Because for this exact reason, like, I don't want to have to. I feel like I'm a bit of like a what are those guys who have bomb shelters?
Yeah, prepper.
I'm a prepper. So I'm like, what if one day someone comes along and says, you can't play these games anymore? It's like, you can't play Gears of War 4. I'm like, well, screw you. I bought it for cheap because I wanted to play it at one point.
The hell I can't.
Exactly. Like,
it's my copy, put it in there.
It's my right as of someone living in the Western Hemisphere to play that game and to own it.
Yeah, it's weird.
I'm sorry. I'll just say, I think obviously it's going to get more down that line in the future. With Forza, it's kind of like a thing of like, that's 7. I know there's like an 8 and there's other Forza games since then. It's kind of like a thing. It's not like, yeah, they can sort of get away with that. in a way, like it's as if like, FIFA got rid of FIFA 17.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Like,
like, no one
it's
plays
like
FIFA 16 anymore. Right?
people are moving on to the new FIFA every year. People are moving on to a new Forza every year. So it's kind of that thing that they do abandon the old games, but still it's a slippery slope.
Mm.
And it's
the online services that move those on though. Like nobody's playing FIFA 16 because there's no one to play against, right? Like,
yeah.
Same with Call of Duty.
But it's strange as well. But like I said, you can buy DLC. It's kind of if you're renting a game, but you're buying the products for it. I mean, it's not entirely different to like renting a game from the video store back in the day and like buying all the game guides and stuff for it. And then at the end of being like, oh, I have all these peripherals, but I don't have the game. But I guess it's just the whole, it's, I don't know, consent. It's like,
it honestly surprised me you could buy DLC for a game you had on Game Pass. Like that was news to me as well. But
so that'll be where they need to figure this out, right? Iron out these creases.
Just want to put it out there. Steam, one of the first like online game services, Gabe Newell, the president, has often said that he has a kill switch that he can just flip, and that will turn off all the authentication, and your game library will be yours. Like you won't have to ping the server to say you own it. So I don't know.
I thought
you were going to say. Yep. I thought you were going to say it deletes it off everybody's hard drive, takes all their money.
Yeah.
And I was like picturing literally this big switch on like a table next to him that he just strokes his finger on it every now and again. Like
no, it's in a briefcase that's cuffed to him. So if there's ever like a threat of nuclear war or anything like that, he can just flick that switch and we get to keep our game libraries. He's a good dude.
What a good man, yeah. Good guy, Gabe.
Next short little news story, because that one was so short,
Yeah.
is did you guys see this week that Sony has patented a camera adjustment that will increase in-game advertising impressions?
Oh, Conan, digital future again. He's scary.
This podcast is my nightmare.
Yeah. This is why you're going to talk about nostalgia, because you hate modern games. So
basically,
I guess what people are theorizing is that you'll be playing Spider-Man, and as you swing past the building, the camera will turn slightly so that it makes sure you see that billboard for, Dove body spray or whatever it is that they're advertising, right?
Who uses that?
I don't know. It was the first thing that came to my brain for some reason.
Yeah, or Red Bull or something.
Yeah,
like energy drinks are very easy that they can put it in anything. I mean, I can picture Cyberpunk, a game like that where there's literally neon signs everywhere. They could just have a field day with that. But yeah, it's kind of seedy to think that I'm controlling this and now my camera is shifting a little bit. But I don't, who buys stuff because they see an ad in a video game? Like I want to know what the actual hit rate is on that.
But I think that shows that you don't understand advertising. Like there is proof that this stuff works. You don't necessarily say, I saw that in a video game, so I'm going to buy it. But somewhere along the way, subconsciously, you're more likely to recognize that brand and purchase it next time you have to buy tampons or whatever the ad was for.
Luke, didn't you start drinking Monster after playing Death Stranding?
No, I made a choice to never ever drink that drink after playing Death Stranding. I was like, I've never had Monster, and now I never will.
Maybe that was paid advertising by like Red Bull, and so now you just drink Red Bull, right?
Oh damn it! Look at that, shifty thinking.
That's Kojima's thinking.
It's so deep. Conan, what are your thoughts on this?
So basically, this just so I understand it. So it's the camera that you're seeing can actually move without you controlling it for this stuff.
That's what it suggests.
That's what they're suggesting, yeah. So you're swinging past the building as Spider-Man. There's an ad on the wall, so the camera will move to make sure that you see that ad, so that they can then say to their advertisers, say, "This got 5,000 views." Like they know that you saw it in game, whereas at the moment they don't necessarily know that you see those.
Okay, yeah. So it's kind of like trying to blur that line of cutscenes to reality, right? Because cutscenes do that all the time, where they could show you 5 seconds of anything they want.
They can, but they generally don't pause on an ad.
Sometimes
they do,
but I mean, they could if they wanted to. I guess it would be the same. Yeah, I don't know. This one doesn't disturb me as much because that's just the weird fickle world of advertising. When you first said this, I thought you were like describing the camera that recorded you playing and watched your reaction. So if they went past a Red Bull sign and they saw your eyes light up, they're like, "Hey, he's susceptible. Let's keep plugging Red Bull, man."
It's
Oh,
coming.
God,
Don't you worry.
that's-
You
Yeah.
close your eyes when the ads are on. They're like, please open eyes for ads to resume. Like, it's coming.
Yeah, I've seen
Bonus
that Black
XP
Mirror episode.
podcast
Yes.
episode 286. We'll be talking about that patent that Sony files, but
15 million merits.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
It's
To listen to this episode, please watch
Yeah.
these ads.
It's very I don't know. Anytime I see like a blatant ad or like, product placement or anything like that in any sort of video, it's really, concerning sort of thing. But
Ugh, it's like freedom in a can.
oh God, that's good. It's
Why,
good
you need
drink.
to get some of these people to pay us, Luke.
Oh, true, man. If we could get Pepsi on board. Oh,
Yeah,
You're
you
doing it
joke
the wrong
about how
way.
bad that is, but I'm sure at the drop of a hat, we'd run an ad at the start of this podcast if we had one.
Pepsi tattoo right on my arm.
Please, yeah, please, any company,
Yeah.
pay us money.
Please. Yeah, no, it's a scary future. I will say Sony does a lot of patents that never come to fruition. Obviously, this sort of thing, I don't think they'll advertise. I don't think it'll ever be like PlayStation 6 has an advertisement camera. It'll sort of be a thing that just happens without us knowing. So we won't know if it's actually implemented.
Yeah,
And maybe
it's
it'll
not
be
going to be a
so
feature on the
subtle
back of the box.
that people won't actually notice or anything. But it'll be interesting to see in a few years' time, I think. But yeah, they have some weird patterns if you go through their patent history. But
That's what I do on my weekend.
Controller triggers that vibrate.
Thursday night for me.
All right, my final little story is Blizzard has quietly dropped TCP IP support for Diablo 2, the remake that they're releasing. So what this boils down to is that people can no longer connect peer-to-peer to other people. And basically, it allowed you in Diablo 2 to avoid using Blizzard's dedicated servers. This had some really good effects because it let you play with mods that didn't have support on the servers. It let you play on LANs. It was used a lot for speed running, but they've quietly taken it out of this remaster, and fans are a bit annoyed. I don't know. I'm not a big Diablo 2 guy. Any of you guys play it?
I still remember the ads back in when I was like
Yeah.
6, and it was sick, but I never played it.
No, my only experience with Diablo is watching my brother play the original on PC when I was young, and Diablo 3. I remember playing at a games night with you, Griner, and an old friend of ours, Payne. And I just remember legitimately holding like the button, whatever it was, to shoot. I think it was an archer, and it just kept shooting if you held the stick one way or something. I remember literally holding it down and falling asleep as I was playing it. And like I fell asleep still shooting enemies. It was late in the night. I'm not blaming the game, but I just remember waking up several times and being like, oh, I'm still killing enemies.
Still
I'm still there
fine.
somewhere. But yeah, that's my experience with Diablo. So
Anyway, I just Blizzard redid Warcraft 3 last year or the year before. They showed a trailer for it beforehand with all these remastered cutscenes, all these great new features. Huge amount of that was cut when the remastered release actually came out. And largely people were really not happy with it. It seems like they're going down the same path here. I don't know. Screw Blizzard.
I don't know.
This
Blizzard are a good company, aren't they? They're always
Mm.
you never really hear anything negative about
I hear they
Blizzard.
treat women really well.
Watch our last podcast.
Yeah, I don't know, because World of Warcraft obviously has such a fiercely loyal fan base, but they've been losing players for a long time. And it's a weird direction to go in for them to like cut these things off to just try to consolidate into their own, I guess.
Mm.
I don't know what their thinking is.
I blame Activision. The merger.
Yeah,
Actually, that makes sense.
Activision are pretty bad.
I mean, it's like when you merge companies, you've got to trim the fat off places, so kind of makes sense, I suppose.
Speaking of Activision, this week they announced the new Call of Duty. So this is my topic for the week. Call of Duty Vanguard has been announced. It was heavily rumored, and there was a few leaks and everything like that. There's a short 2-minute teaser trailer that doesn't show too much or anything like that, and they've shown what I'm assuming will be the cover art. It's been met with a fair bit of backlash because it's set in World War II. First, before we get into this, there we go. I wanted to get your thoughts on Conan. Okay, I'll start with you. Call of Duty. Is it something you were ever into? Do you still play it, like the campaigns, or online, or what's your history with it? When did you quit Call of Duty if you did play it?
Look, I can't say ghillie suit without saying ghillie suit like that
Yeah,
because all ghillied up is still the greatest campaign mission in anything.
so good.
Like Modern Warfare One was a really good game. I
Yes,
really
it
enjoyed
was.
that. And that was the last one I ever played.
Was it really?
As in, like
Wow.
I've played multiplayer and I've just never got it into it. It's always been a thing where I've always seen it as like you play Call of Duty or you play Battlefield or you play Halo or you play another shooter.
Mm.
And Call of Duty is kind of the one that people just live and breathe. And I don't know, if you're not into it, you can't dip your toe in really because people who play it have been playing for the past 4 years. And I don't know, that's not kind of the style of shooter I'm into. I played Halo a lot. I'm much more interested in that sort of not slower, but not as like, a few shots and you're dead perks. I don't like a lot of the stuff that Call of Duty really focuses on. So I played rounds of most of them, but I've just never been a big fan.
You never played Black Ops?
Again, played some multiplayer, but never played the campaign.
True. Conan, what about Grana? Sorry, what about you?
I played a lot of Black Ops and Black Ops 2 multiplayer. Really,
Multiplayer.
yeah, with my brother-in-law, we used to just, I don't know, I used to get on after work with him, and we've just smashed out a bunch of rounds. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. That was back when I was still console gaming.
Good time.
Good days.
The good days. If I was still a console gamer, I probably would pick up Call of Duty again to play the multiplayer because I do think it's really fun. I don't find it as fun on PC, that style of shooter. But yeah, I really enjoyed that multiplayer. And yeah, like I said, if I was on console, I'd be totally up for it. I don't want to play a game in World War II though.
Was it were you playing zombies as well? Or was it mostly zombies, or
No,
was
it
it
was all
just normal deathmatch sort of stuff?
all deathmatch. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm probably like a weird Call of Duty fan where I'm a campaign guy. I don't play games online. I don't like any sort of social interaction, or even if it's digital. Or, I just like to play the campaigns, and I really enjoy Call of Duty campaigns. And preparing to talk about this tonight, I realized I've literally bought every Call of Duty every year since Modern Warfare, and I've played and finished every Call of Duty campaign since Modern Warfare. Um, it's a habit. Like I can't not do it every year when the new one comes out. As long as it's got a campaign, even though I got Black Ops 4 anyway, because it was just battle royale and multiplayer, but I got that anyway. I play and I finish the campaign usually over the weekend it comes out. I always get it on a release date, play through it that weekend, and I'll usually sell it or trade it in the following week and get most of my money back. Like it's just that thing of like, boom, 5 hours. I'm always out in 5 or 6 hours. It's great. I love just sitting there playing it. I feel like they're fun. Obviously the quality can dip and flow, but I feel like even the worst one is still a good 5 hour first person shooter campaign. Like it's fun to play. I don't know. I love them. Like I really enjoy Call of Duty every year. I did get into Warzone a bit last year, which is like was the only battle royale game I got into over this whole craze for the last few years. I put maybe 15, 20 hours into that, which is crazy. Like that's a lifetime for me in the online world. I think it's my most played online game ever. But
Damn.
it's something, and I was a bit surprised that the reaction was so hostile against World War II, but it seems like it's hostile here in this room with us three. It's been a while. Like they did Call of Duty World War II, obviously, a few years ago, which that was the name of it. Before that, they didn't have one since World at War, which Conan, I think you would love World at War. Gary Oldman, like
We love Gary Oldman.
it's great, and it has its own sniper mission that's great. It came out after Modern Warfare, like it's the direct follow up after that success of that. And I don't know, it was sort of, I remember playing World War II a few years ago and being like, I miss this. Like it's all modern game. Like every first person shooter is modern, and it was kind of cool to go back and play it like that and have it be a bit grittier, not having heartbeat sensors on every gun and weird weapons, and it was cool. It was fun. I liked it. And there's been a lot of negative feedback about it going back to World War II, which I find strange because when they did futuristic Infinite Warfare, it seems to be the most hated one that people criticize that it went to space and it was all futuristic, and even Advanced Warfare with Kevin Spacey, like that they went to like,
he was in it.
they went to mech
Aged really
suits
well.
and everything like that. Like, and people are like, oh, this isn't that. Like Infinite Warfare famously has like the worst ever like and dislike ratio on YouTube for a Call of Duty trailer, like reveal trailer. It's like massively disliked because people are like, this is stupid. I want the old stuff or modern stuff. And I don't know. I'm a bit surprised. It seems like a lot of people saying, oh, I'm going to be playing Battlefield 2042 this year. But I've always been in the camp that Battlefield is nowhere near the quality of Call of Duty. And obviously I'm coming from a campaign perspective. I don't play online. But I've tried to play a few Battlefield campaigns and I just can't get into them. While Call of Duty, I always feel like a quality. So, Conan.
I mean, just real quick, when you said, you had World War II and World at War with their World War II games, Call of Duty 1, 2, and 3 were also World War II settings.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but that's over 20, that's 20 years ago.
But it's not like this is what the franchise was born in. And I think it speaks to the change that when they did Modern Warfare, that's when the franchise blew up, right? Like
Yeah,
it was still popular with the first three, but Modern Warfare is what made this like a household name. Modern Warfare is what made this game become the juggernaut that it is. And because it was a modern, realistic shooter. And I think mixing it up every now and then is fine, but World War II, it's the same with movies. World War II is just this constantly dipped in sort of setting that I feel is very tired. It's like, yeah, we've done the trenches, we've done Western Front, like we've done D-Day a billion friggin' times. I don't need to keep doing World War II stuff. It's not as interesting anymore because you can't go anywhere with it. It's 6 years of known history. And every time you're like, oh, this is a certain soldier in a French village. Like, who gives a shit? Every soldier went to a French village. Doesn't matter. Whereas Modern Warfare and stuff is interesting. It's like, again, that you went through the Chernobyl site. Fascinating. And then just like serving in the, like what's going on now is a lot more interesting than I think just going back to World War II and being like, we're telling a story of us fighting Nazis again, which has been told for the past 70 years.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, you're right. Like, it's so much more interesting to me to look at a setting like the Cold War or like America post-Vietnam, like, a war that's much less popular than World War II. So I think you can tell more interesting stories. I think there's a lot more political intrigue that you can just make up because nobody knows everything that happened in the Cold War, right? But yeah, you're right. World War II is so documented. Everybody's seen every movie with the D-Day landing. Like, we've seen all these scenes of these heroic things that happened in real life and were amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, but yeah, like it does feel very tired.
So yeah, no, I get that. Obviously last year they did Cold War. Probably one of the weaker campaigns of like the last 10 years or so. I don't really remember it too much. They went in a bit of a different direction where like there was, you could choose different outcomes or choose to do certain missions and then you'd have different endings or whatever, but didn't quite work. It was a bit weird. Conan, what if I told you something that got you interested in this game and its setting?
Try it.
So there's rumors that it'll be alternate history World War II.
Man.
How do you feel about that?
Boy, howdy. Those are my favorite two words in the English language.
Only together, though.
There are some rumors that it's basically going like a Wolfenstein New Order sort of alternate history, like really going into alternate history, and that's going to be their big reveal. There's little things in the poster that they revealed where people are zooming in and seeing. I'm talking like there's speculation like there's spaceships in the back, like it's like weird alternate history.
Big leap.
Yeah.
Okay.
What would your thoughts on that? If it's an alternate history World War II?
Look, if you're fighting giant mechanical dogs and Hitler comes out with like his brain in a jar and his mech suit, I'm there. I'll buy that day one. But unless they go balls to the wall, alternate history, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in them being like, oh, what happens if this one battle towards the end is slightly different? But
B-Day.
I don't know. Didn't because it was Battlefield that had World War One, wasn't it? They did a World War One game.
They went and did like the 5 separate sort of mini campaigns.
And that was, am I wrong in saying that was kind of alternate history as well a bit?
Not that I remember. No, it sort of
Okay.
it was 5. I played it like they had Gallipoli, or Anzac or something. It was like something about it was an Australian campaign. There was one like in the Middle East. It was sort of these 5 smaller campaigns, but still set in reality, as far as I know.
Yeah, okay. I thought that they were different. Yeah.
I don't think Call of Duty or Battlefield's done anything with like alternate history, so it'd be interesting.
No, I would be a lot more interested in it if they do that. If they do alternate World War II history, I'll be very intrigued. I'm not saying I'll play it day one, but
Yeah,
if it comes out on Game Pass, I might give it a crack.
I mean,
I'll say the thing is the thing with multiplayer for me is like taking it back to World War II slows the game down so much. Like
yeah,
current Call of Duty games have things. I mean, they have had things like wall jumping, like wall running, and stuff like that, and like these guns that just did not exist, or
It's
even
hard to go
anything
back.
like it did not exist in World War II. And to me, it feels very hard to go back. Like maybe there's people who that really appeals to. Like I could see that being fun, like with a slower paced game like Battlefield, where you can focus more on sniping and long range warfare and
sniper
stuff like that.
battles and yeah,
But like Call of Duty's never been that game. Like the sniping's always quick scoping and stuff like that, which
Yeah.
just doesn't make any sense with World War II guns. So if it is alternate history, that's their avenue to say, well, here's a machine gun that never existed
Yeah.
and make the multiplayer more interesting, at least to me anyway.
Get a Tommy gun that's got like 6 barrels.
Yeah.
and
I can see them
plasma
doing like,
rifles.
yeah, Tesla stuff and that sort of thing as well. Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, no, I'd
Dude.
play the crap out of that game. Yeah.
World War II with a needler. Yes. Would be great. Well, I mean, I'm keen. Obviously, 2 years ago they did Modern Warfare again and like remade the original, and changed a lot of the sort of stuff, and added new things to it. But it was cool to go back to that. So it'll be interesting to see if they do this as sort of a remake of World at War, if they do try their hand at alternate history. But I'm keen, man. Call of Duty, I'm there every year, day one, 5 hours, and I'm out. Never touch it again.
You and you alone, though. Like the
I
only
know,
person that comes
the
to Call of
only
Duty
Call
for
of
the
Duty
campaign.
person that comes for that. But Conan, we'll pass it over to you.
All right, get ready for a nice dose of nostalgia, everybody.
Yes,
Do you remember the past? What a good time.
World War II,
there.
good times.
World War II, World War II, the best war. So, past week or so, internet's been ablaze, if you will, with rumors of a GTA remake. Have you guys seen this? The original trilogy, or the good original
Vice
trilogy?
City.
The 3D trilogy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's more-
I have seen the rumors about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that sort of popped up a bit and then kept getting shared, and it seems almost guaranteed now. So yeah, GTA 3, GTA Vice City, GTA San Andreas. I think they're the games that I feel like everybody played. They really sort of an entire generation of people who are playing games played those games. So they're very big in the pop culture. I think we all still like 80s music because of Vice City. But I mean, it doesn't mean necessarily that. Like, there's one of the website articles here said there's a chance that the planned remasters are for non-GTA games from the developers, as there are also rumors of a Red Dead Redemption remaster and possibly even Bully or Max Payne. Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick recently said one of the company's remasters, we don't just port titles over, we actually take the time to do the very best job making the title different for the new release. So that's really exciting to see, these 3 pivotal games potentially getting remade. And yeah, a Red Dead Redemption remake, I'd be there. Bully and Max Payne are both games that I missed out on and feel like I really wanted to play.
I would be so down for a Max Payne 1 and 2 remake. They were really excellent games.
So is it 1 and 2? Because I was going to say I'd be so down for a Max Payne 3 remake, like remaster. Even a
The one that nobody
remaster.
cared about.
I adore Max
Me
Payne
too.
3. I adore Max Payne 3. I love that game so much. The soundtrack's a banger, and man, I played that game so much. And
Did you play the other 2?
No,
Yeah, well, that's the problem.
no history with that. But even the multiplayer in that was so much fun. I remember like having one of my coolest moments in a multiplayer match in Max Payne 3, diving off a building in slow-mo, falling, going to die if I hit the ground, shooting the guy who's Max Payne. So when you kill Max Payne in the multiplayer, you become him. And so I'm falling, shooting him. Like one person gets to be Max Payne sort of thing. And then just before I hit the ground, killed him. So then I transported to be like in his body sort of thing. I took over and I was like, oh, it was the coolest moment in gaming for me. But and Red Dead Redemption, I'd be there day one for as well. And they might even remaster Grand Theft Auto 5. It's been ages. So
we need an update on that shit. I mean, a GTA 4 remake, I would be so excited for as well.
Yeah, GTA 4. Yeah,
because I adore that game. What was I thinking? Sorry, that's my train of thought. I know. So that's really exciting. Because it just got me then thinking about retro gaming and stuff. How it's such a weirdly profitable market right now. Like, also, what recently happened is I don't know if you guys saw, but in July, an unopened copy of Super Mario 64 sold for $1.56 million.
Yeah.
And then just like a week ago, Super Mario Bros. The original sold for $2 million, which boggles my mind.
I was reading people can't work out why though. Like, it doesn't seem to fit with like previous prices or prices of other similar games. Just all of a sudden, these two are just like outliers.
It's strange. I don't get what's going on either.
Could be a conspiracy. We'll never find out.
I mean, but it could be one of those things that's just always going to go up in value, right? Like, there can't be that many of them around.
That's what it sort of seems like. So an article I was reading was talking about how these old sort of games like this are released obviously on a certain type of hardware that are more expensive to make, and so they just cease production. So there's you can't really recreate those, or it's a lot harder to, whereas games at least now are on discs, and discs are kind of universal. So it's pretty easy to bring that out. So you're right, like a mint condition game like this is just getting rarer and rarer, and so they're always going to become more valuable. But like, it's even worth noting, I think recently an unopened copy of Skyrim on the 360 sold for like a few $100s. Which is very funny to me. Makes me regret opening that game and could have had $300.
Like back in the day of working at EB Games and seeing thousands of them just stacked up, all these sealed copies of Skyrim.
Could have been making bank.
Dude. It's strange. And there you go. Keep your physical media. Don't go digital. You can't sell digital copies of stuff.
As long as you haven't opened it. As long as you haven't opened it and enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That's why I always buy two of everything. One for me, one for future me. But then, Grant, what you were saying about sort of you can't figure out why this is happening, right? So I was reading this article in a games journal. So I called "Replaying with Video Game History: Moving Beyond Retro Game" by someone named Christian Redhead Arm. Basically, they re-examined a bit of sort of the motivations for why people do retro gaming, because there's been a whole sort of discourse recently of like everyone's retro gaming because of COVID. Oh, it's just the nostalgia thing. People like it because they miss their glory days. But she identified, she identified three sort of key things that are just nostalgia. So there's motivations are amateur archaeology, amateur art history, and techno history. So these are sort of reasons why people engage with these older games beyond just, I want to play a game that I enjoyed as a kid. And I think that's really interesting, right, to look at these as more than just I liked. And I think that's sort of why they're bringing all these games back and why they're remaking everything a lot, rather than just being, oh, I enjoyed them then, I want to enjoy them now. There's also this sense of like knowing where we came from, how far things have changed, what this looks like then versus what it looks like now. So like the Dead Space remake is going to be really fascinating to see how it compares to a game that's 13 years old. What they've changed, what they keep in, what they update, what they don't. I don't know. What do you guys think of retro gaming as a fad or as a phenomenon in 2021?
I've tried a few times. Like, I had a Raspberry Pi set up as a Retro Pi for a while. I've downloaded emulators on my phone. I've done all the things you do without actually physically owning the media, but I'll play for like 15 minutes. Oh, I love this Mario game when I was a kid. And I'm like, all right, these controls are kind of wonky. It doesn't work as well as I remembered because I'm playing it on a Raspberry Pi. And even if I had the real console, like, it would be grainy and hard to, like, I couldn't even plug it into my current TV. Like, I don't know. I'm not a big retro gamer. I really appreciate the people doing that archival work, and there is some really interesting stuff with that, like people restoring games that require a server to connect to that no longer exists, and working out how to spoof that. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff happening in that space. And then Nintendo trying to thwart it all by taking down all the sites that do it. But I don't know, like the physical idea of owning an old NES and having a bunch of cartridges stick into it is just like not that appealing to me, I must admit.
See, I feel like retro gaming and like this whole nostalgia sort of gaming it's something that's always better in the mind when you're like, like absolutely. I bought Super Mario like 3D All Stars day one, and I was like, this is going to be great. Like, I can't wait to play Mario 64 again. And I'm sure a lot of people played it and enjoyed it and loved it while it was available. But it's something I bought it and legitimately played. Like Grana said, I played about 15 minutes and I was like, that was fun. And then I turned it off and I put it on eBay. Put it on eBay like a week or two later because I was like, I'm never going to play this again. Like, wow. I can't do it. There's always a time and a place for it, and sometimes you feel like that thing. I know years ago I like had my laptop and got an emulator for Ocarina of Time and just played through that from like, start to finish over like a week or two. It was like, man, this game is great, and I hadn't played it in years at that point, and it was just I was like, man, this game is amazing, but I feel like every time, with the odd exception, that I buy like a remake or a re-release or something that's finally available, it's sort of like just that thing where I put it in, I play it. That was neat. Like when they did the mini PlayStation 1 console, I was like, oh, this is cool, but it's not really. Like, I don't want to play those games again. Like, games are better these days. Just generally, they're better games to play and more fun to play. And I've got a backlog already of new games. So,
yeah, I do wonder. Like, there was those NES Classic editions and stuff like that. Like, how many of those tiny consoles are gathering dust? Like, how many of those tiny consoles have been switched on in the last year? I bet it's a very small number.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's interesting then. Like, you say they sort of come out, you play them a little bit, and say, okay, I'm done. But games keep getting remade, right? Like, these keep happening. This seems like a more profitable market now than ever, to be like games that people played back in the day. They're actually going to sell if we remake them or we update them. Like, I feel like 10 years ago it was very rare, whereas now it's constant, and a lot of that could just be the technology is easy to do it to.
Yeah,
but I do think there's more to it. I think, and that's what I think this article is really interesting about, is that identified there's more than just like some reasons why people engage with it are not just this was fun back then. There is like sort of this sense of, it's kind of like watching old films in a lot of ways, where it's like, look, this film's black and white, the sound's weird, performances are bizarre. It's, by today's standards, it definitely isn't a quote unquote great film. But when you understand its place in history, when you understand that, and you sort of, if you're really into film, it's like, oh, I totally get why this is so appealing. And you have this whole new layer of appreciation, right? And I feel like it's kind of the same with retro gaming in a way, where you play this game, it's like, wow, look what they were doing then. Like, there's three things: archaeology, art history, or like technology. Just seeing sort of, I don't know, immersing yourself in a sense of community, right? Like, I play games. This is where gaming as a medium has come from. Like, it's super fun to play Mortal Kombat 1 still, because like, look how weird it is, and their weird, like, sort of their photorealistic take on people.
Yeah,
it's not a great
that game holds up. That game kind of holds up in a weird way.
But it's this weird thing of like, but it's super fun because you appreciate these new elements of it instead of just the game.
See, like with retro gaming for me, it's like, me personally, it's nostalgia. As in, I don't think I could retro play games that I didn't play as a kid. Like, I don't think I could go back and play a PS1 game that isn't near and dear to my heart, and appreciate it for what it was or what it did back then. Same as Nintendo 64 games. Like, I had nostalgia for Mario 64, not that much. If they release Ocarina of Time, I'll probably play all of that, because that was much more impactful on my childhood, and it's much more of that thing where I'm like, oh, same as Mass Effect. I played through them again. that's more of a pivotal moment in my life that I liked them. But when it comes to stuff like Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, I think I'll always play like a remake of something, like as opposed to a remaster. If like Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, I was able to play and finish both of them, and I loved those, when I'd only really touched them as a kid. But I was like, I can see what that fuss is all about and see it from a modern perspective and be like, okay, that's what Resident Evil 3 is, if you know what I mean. And I'll probably play Dead Space more than I played the original with this like remake, and be able to appreciate what happened in the story and everything like that. Metal Gear Solid 1 is like really near and dear to my heart. I love that game. I've played it maybe over 10 times. I don't know if in my life now, like with responsibilities and everything like that, if I would sit down to play Metal Gear Solid 1, the PS1 version again, if they remade that, like Bluepoint did a remake of it, 4K, day one, I'd be playing that. That'd be the game I'd be getting into that weekend. But the clunkiness and everything like that, it's just, ain't nobody got time for that,
Yeah. I don't think you can it's really hard to compare the remasters versus the remakes. Like remakes, I'm totally interested in. Remasters, a lot less. Going back and booting up an old console to play a really old game, just no way in the world. I don't think you can. Even the people buying these carts for $2 million, they're not buying them to play them. They're not buying them to enjoy it. They're buying them to own them, to have that piece of history, which is that archaeological thing you're talking about. But it's not. It's a different thing to playing the game and enjoying it.
Yeah.
And that's just Nintendo though. Like Switch games cost like $1 million now anyway, and just stay at that price. So it's basically the price just increases on Switch games all the time, and they always stay at the same price. So that's just Nintendo value for you. But no, it's definitely something like, I don't know. It's that the whole remaster thing and playing it. I think stuff from my teenage years and stuff that was kind of the HD era, like Oblivion, Mass Effect, this sort of stuff, where remasters are acceptable, where they bump it up to 60 frames a second. You're like, oh yeah, I can play this, but there's only so much you can remaster. Like Mario 64 wasn't a remaster. Like that was, it was just, they just put that on the Switch. It was very lazy. And the fact that they charged $70, I'm sure is a bit of a sour taste as well for that. But yeah, it's a lot of effort, I feel like, to be a retro gamer, to go back and get these retro consoles and sit down with like a cord that's 1 meter long and sit there on the floor and be like, all right, I'm back in 1990 when my parents were still together, and like play it. I feel like it's just not something that I'd be into myself. But yeah.
Is that what you don't have a sad story to link it to? Like if your parents split up and I retro game every day.
Exactly, maybe, better. But I had a really happy childhood, so I'm like, and I have a happy life now, so I don't need to regress and go back to anything. I'm like, I'm good to play whatever games are coming out now, man.
Maybe that's it. There's a form of therapy in retro gaming that
I'm living in the moment, man. Living in the moment.
I wish I could one day be like that.
But you're the retro guy. Like you're the vintage video game guy. I feel like you'd have an arcade. I'd feel like you'd have a garage full of arcade machines if you could, and have your own arcade. You charge all the local kids to come in and put their nickels in, and you'd stand there with your fanny pack. And
I'm not sure why we live in Australia. I don't know why we have nickels, but that's a whole side topic.
You're going retro.
Look, if I had a house and money and a wife who let me, I would hoard the crap out of retro gaming stuff. I'd be all over that. Even the other day, I was thinking about how much I wanted to, like, if I was ever rich, I would open a video store again.
Oh, like buy the franchise?
You could lose your fortune.
Well, it'd be a very clear, like, okay, here's some expendable money that I can put into this business.
If you ever win the lotto, you just...
That's the difference between you and Bezos.
He doesn't care about that sort of stuff.
Also, I have hair, so...
Ooh, two differences.
Sorry, Granny, you were going to say something?
Was I? I can't remember. I love the idea of having an arcade machine, but I know as soon as I got it home, I would never play that damn thing. But sit in the corner and collect dust.
That's such a good conversation starter, right? If someone comes over and it's like, what's that in your corner? It's, look at my arcade machine, bro.
That's the thing. That is the time when I would appreciate playing old games. Like if we all sat down to play Mortal Kombat 1 against each other, like that would be fun. But there's no way I would sit there and play it on my own. Like
No.
Yes, it's fun to laugh at the jank or whatever, but that's something I want to do with other people.
Yeah, I think at one of my sister's birthdays or something, and then some friends here in Sydney at one point, like we did that. We'd go and play N64. We'd play GoldenEye, and we'd play Mario Kart, and like it was a lot of fun. That it's kind of like fun with my siblings or with these friends that I couldn't have playing a modern game. Like if we sat down and played, some of these guys in Sydney, we then played Smash, and I'm just like, I don't care for Smash. I have no appreciation for it. So they were all like kind of into it, but I was like, yeah, look, I'm not getting anything out of this. And one of the guys was just really wanted to win. So it's like, okay, he's too competitive. I'm not competitive at all. Just grind all over.
Yeah.
But then when we
says Luke spamming King Day to Day all the time.
King Day to Day.
But then when we all sat down and played Mario Kart, it's like we all have this. We're all 6 years old again. We all sort of know that this isn't about winning or losing.
Yeah.
It's super janky, but it's just so much fun.
But see, that's the thing. I'd rather play the new Mario Kart. Like if friends coming over, I'd rather play new Mario Kart or Mario Party instead of going back to play the N64 versions of that.
No, I can see like even I remember playing the Mario Kart on the Wii with the steering wheel. I was like, Jesus, this is crap.
Wait till you play it on Switch.
No.
That's better. I don't want to steer.
Better.
I don't do motion controls or anything like that with Mario Kart. But
that's what it was in the Wii.
They're fun party games. That's the thing. It's Friends. Like Friends is like the thing for arcade and retro sort of stuff. Like I know if I have friends over, I'd love to play like stuff like Golden Axe or Streets of Rage. These like fun like 3-player beat 'em up sort of thing. Like and it can play the Sega version that they released on like the Sega collection on PS4 or anything like that. And it's fun and it's retro, but I'm not pulling out a Sega and being like, all right, grab this rusty old controller. Here we go, give it a couple of smacks, and now let's try and play. But I'll always play them sort of games. And there's certain ones like your 2D side scrollers will hold up for a long time. Like they're not janky like anything that's 3D and from like the 90s is really bad. Like
not great.
What was your game that you'd revive?
Body Harvest, yeah.
You know, like I don't know if you could play that now and be like, man, this is great. Like,
I'm very curious.
But yeah, there's always a space for that sort of thing, and yeah. Well, anything else? Any last topics anyone wants to talk about?
No. Sell all your physical media and buy digital.
Exactly.
I don't buy digital, rent digital, so they can one day take it off you.
Stonks.
Buy your physical media, keep it shrink wrapped, and hide it somewhere you can't ever find it, and then bury it one day. The only digital thing you should invest in is digital currency. I
can't wait till they release the physical digital currency.
Do your own research.
Yes, exactly. NFTs, man. Who wants physical art? Thanks for watching, as always. If you loved watching us talk about video games, you'll love hearing us talk about movies. Our other podcast, The Good, the Bad, and the Worst, we sit down every fortnight and review movie trilogies. Our most recent episode was...
Coming up is Fear Street.
Fear Street, yes. So Fear Street should be coming out next week. And after that will be the
Batman.
lesser known Nolan trilogy, the Batman trilogy.
The only Nolan trilogy.
But yeah, no. So listen to that. Some good times to be had. You can follow us on the social media at Bonus XP Podcast. Thanks for watching again. Like and subscribe. Share with your friends. Tell your mum. Tell your dad. Tell everyone. And we'll see you next time.
Adios.
Bye.
Thanks.